Good evening and welcome to Addiction Talk. And we have a special guest with us today, Renee Graziano. Renee, I know we've been working behind the scenes. We had a little technical difficulty, but we said that is not going to stop this show because you got a powerful story to share tonight.
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. It's probably like a 20-part story, but we'll start here.
Okay. Well, just that we want people to remember exactly who you are. So we're going to play a quick clip about who you are, your background, so they get to see all about you before we get into the interview.
Okay.
Here we go. Renee Graziano is a reality TV star, accomplished author, and a life coach who rose to fame as a cast member on the hit series Mom Wives. Although she is known for her tough as nails persona on TV, Renee has faced her fair share of challenges in real life, including struggles with mental health and addiction. In high school, she turned to cocaine to cope, and as an adult, she became addicted to prescription painkillers. Over the years, she's had multiple stays in rehab and multiple overdoses. Today, Renee is over a year sober and is working on a number of exciting projects, including an explosive memoir and a new TV series. Addiction Talk starts now. So we had to take you back down memory lane for a little bit.
I was so nervous because all I kept thinking every time that people talk to me from addiction, all they do is show me like a lunatic. But I think what people forget, listen, am I normal? I'm going to go with no. Could you be normal grown into a family like mine? No, you just make it your norm. And that's what I did. Some of my behaviors was way past addict behavior. It was, I hate the word entitled. I like to call it SRBS, spoil rotten brat syndrome. So I know they're the same, but they're different to me. My father gave me everything because he didn't have. He didn't know how to parent. Not because we were super wealthy. Our money obviously was not the 9 to 5, it was the 5 to 9. So how do you expect 3 daughters to grow up in this world? And we
not
grew
have
up
any challenges, right? Because
right.
One of the things, and Renee, why I wanted to show, because a lot of people remember you. I remember you, from Mom Wives and Big Ange and all the other shows. But I think you're so different today. I mean, there's a part of you I can still see that, tenacity that you still have. But how would you say you are different today, now that you're in recovery, from the woman that we saw on the show that many of us loved watching?
Okay, let's talk recovery. So I have many relapses. Many. I'll get like 364 days and I'm like, I can't do it. So I decided for myself not to count days. Days are pressure to me. And what I learned, unfortunately, from my father being away, they used to mark the calendar. So for me, it's like, if they got in trouble, it's a letdown. So I don't, every 24 is enough for me. Yes, they continue, but to sit here and say, oh, I have 5 years, 3 days, 69 minutes, I'm not going to do that. That's I can't.
So you counted by the 24 hours. So every 24 hours, you're like, if I can do this just 24 hours, then that's my success for the day.
Honestly, sometimes for me, it's every 5 seconds because what comes my way is not normal. People like, oh, she's a drama queen. I didn't ask to be born to my parents. God blessed me with my parents. I didn't ask for my father to go to prison, but my father's a man of his word, so he did. Now, people knock that. I don't knock that. My father gave me, even though he wasn't there for 15 years of my life, he still gave me. Sorry,
Mm,
my father died 4 years ago, and I haven't been the same. So my father gave me something that normal dads can't. We ate honor, respect, loyalty. That's what we ate. And I
mm,
didn't understand that until I was older, until the first person crossed me, then the
mm,
second person, then the third person. And I'd go home, I go, but Daddy, why is this happening to me? He goes,
mm,
Renee, the nicer you are, the more you'll get walked on. And that
mm,
hurt me because I love people of every race, of every religion. I wanted to experience everything in life. My father said, you stay here. This is where you belong. Not realizing that he was shortchanging me. Because there's
yeah.
no difference with you, with me, with the lady in China, with the lady. There's no difference. But he made me feel, and this is ignorant, so please forgive me. He made
Mm-hmm.
me feel like you just stay right there. You marry your own kind. And there's
Mm,
plenty of races and religions that want their children to marry into their own.
mm-hmm.
Well, when I got the chance, I was like, woohoo! I was off the Empire State Building
Mm,
because I felt sheltered from a world that's no
mm. Do you think, Renee, being sheltered and
different.
going through that impacted you seeking ways to cope, like turning to drugs and finding that as a way of getting through life? Do you feel like that played a role in it?
Um, my drug addiction played a role from a very young age. I was bullied very terribly. I was told how ugly I was.
Mm,
Uh, physically, I grew boobs, no ass. So my sister would say, you're the ugly duckling. And
mm,
that lasted all of my life. My parents
mm,
were very loving, but not to say, oh, you're the most beautiful child. I have a younger sister who's like super highly intelligent, 4.0 valedictorian. She had an eighth grade reading level and in first grade. In eighth grade, I had an eighth grade reading level. I wasn't smart, but nobody's got my personality. So I was constantly judged.
mm,
And I don't think my parents knew what they were doing, but I always would fail out in spelling bees on purpose because I don't want to be laughed at. I wore glasses. I was awkward. I wore a bra in third grade. I was very different. And then once I understood, which was 16, who my
mm,
father was in that
mm.
world, I was like, give me this, give me that. I don't wait online. Do you know who I am? And that's what ruined me.
Wow. So up until 16, you had no idea. You just thought your family was a typical family.
No, no, no. I never thought we were typical. I,
Okay.
I thought my father had a trucking company. Things used to fall off the back of the truck. The candy man would come, he would buy the whole candy truck. I thought we were rich. I didn't
Mm,
know any better until one day I was 16, and this is in my book, and I'll tell you. I was at the end of a bar in a place called Pastels with a few other of those gentlemen. And a man came over and he said, is that TG's daughter? And I said, excuse me? And he said, yeah, your father's a captain. And I said, my father doesn't drive a boat.
mm,
And he said, excuse me? I said, my father does not sail a ship. I went home and I cried. And I said,
mm.
Daddy, is there something you want to tell me? It's
Oh,
okay if you drive a boat. My father goes, what are you talking about? And I told him, and he said, sit down. So girls learned about birds and bees, and I learned about, I would like to see, he's past captains and soldiers. There are different lines of work, but
Mm,
I never knew anything
mm,
ever. No men were allowed in our house, nothing like that. My father always wanted us fully covered. Um, if we had pajamas on, they'd have to be to the knee. Lots of stuff that I think that all parents should do with their daughters.
mhm,
But when my father passed, I learned why he was that way. And
mm,
unfortunately, my father is one of nine sisters. So
mm.
he experienced, his sisters experienced some hardship.
Oh,
So
wow.
more made sense why my dad
Mhm,
like that. You
mhm.
know,
And
now
did
I'm,
that lead you, Renee? You talked about at 16, you realize this whole world's
oh,
up
I was
open to
high.
you.
And I got high as soon as I can.
Mm.
13.
So it
If
was
there was some,
before the 16-year-old. So 13, you start. What did you start with? Were you like a typical teenager that maybe experiments with
I,
marijuana? Or did you just find yourself saying, let me just see what's out there?
no, it was pot. And I think it was called, I remember I took double barrel mescaline. And it was the worst thing in the world because I had all
Mm,
the clothes on that were in the closet.
mm,
And I don't like any, my sister's 9 years older than me. So I don't like those type of things. I don't want to hallucinate. My life is colorful enough. I don't need to hallucinate. But cocaine,
mm,
that was different. And I looked at that as, no disrespect, I looked at it as the rich white girl. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to wear fur coats and I'll take an
mm.
pill. No, that was a mistake.
And
But
did you not realize, you think, looking back, when you look, I can see you kind of going back in your mind in that time in your life. And
I,
when you see those things, what goes through your heart? I can tell it's emotional for you, but when you see all those things that you went through, how does that impact where you are today?
made me a shitty mom.
Oh,
Made me a shitty mom. Because a mom isn't supposed to, a mom is supposed to protect a child from everything. But late nights and this and that, and couldn't get up in the morning, I didn't realize what it was because of, I knew I liked to party, but my partying was very strange. I didn't go out. And then when I was sexually assaulted, I was introduced to Xanax. And that was the end of me. That was the complete end of me. I just wanted to go to bed. I never wanted to wake up. And if I woke up, I wanted everyone that touched me dead. But my whole family was in prison when that happened to me. Um, I'm sorry. My first OD was July 4th, 2007. I was sexually assaulted July 7th at 4:35 in the afternoon. My mom was
mm,
embarrassed to put me into a detox, so she put me into a 70-hour holdover
mm,
where I spent like 2 weeks there. There's a police report, but you can't arrest the man that's in the mental ward. But I
mhm.
have his name.
And so it looks like, and I think we see this a lot, that when people experience trauma growing up, and then also, as you mentioned, such a painful sexual assault, that it
And
can lead people to medicate and to
that's not
find a way just to cope.
that's not who did it. It started, I don't like to speak about that individual I was married to. That's where it started. And I thought it was supposed to be because you're married.
Mm,
And I thought you're supposed to take not the beatings, but I
mm,
lost 25 pounds in my 4th month. My body shut down.
mm,
He ran a strip club for my father. The girl took my car. There's my story is 85 women's stories in one. You know,
Mm.
that, oh, Renee's a liar. Renee throws herself down the stairs. That's why she's black and blue. That's
Mm.
nobody believed me. Nobody believed me until finally when he put his elbow through my back. And they were like, and I still lied. And I still lied. And I would never tell because when I was 15, my first boyfriend gave me a black eye. My father goes, sit down. So I said, oh shit, here it goes. He goes, you want another black eye? I said, no, Dad, I walked into the closet. He goes, oh,
Mm.
did you really? How
Mm.
about two of those? Sit there. Now, my father was a character, obviously, and a very well respected man. But at home, he was my dad.
Mhm.
And when he said that to me and made those phone calls, I said, oops, not cursing, no cursing. Sorry. Oh, sorry. Bleep, bleep. I can't tell. How do you tell a story without cursing?
I know that I understand. So I totally understand. I've let you just share your story in the way
Okay.
that it
I,
comes out.
I won't. I won't. Okay. No, my PR is texting me. No cursing. So could we use letters? So anyway, long story short, my boss said, take a ride. I took a ride. I saw what happened to the ex-boyfriend. From that day forward, I said, it's my sin.
Mm.
I'm gonna hold that no matter what, because God's gonna punish me because I'm the one that's telling. Big mistake. If there's something I could tell women today, tell. I don't care
Mhm.
who you gotta tell. Tell
Mhm.
me.
So let me ask you this, Renee. Going through all of that, how did you find the resilience and the courage to go after recovery again? Because you talked about multiple, overdoses and going to rehab multiple times. How did you keep getting up? Even though, from 15, you talked about the abuse of the boyfriend, talked about going through, a tumultuous marriage and then experiencing the sexual assault. How did you pick yourself back up to say,
And then
I'm going to keep
cooperate
trying?
with the government. I lost my recovery many times. Many, many, many times. My father died. I was clean. I said, frig this, medicate me. Um, what I have to learn and what I would suggest other people that are like me, that are high strung, very emotional, they I pray. I get on my knees. I lay on the floor. If you look at me, if you look at my travel, it's the Bible, it's the stuff that I have to stay praying, because if I don't stay praying, the second I miss it, the devil goes like this. And he
Mm,
gets me. He gets me every time. If he doesn't get me with recovery, he gets me with a man.
mm,
But I don't think people understand recovery is sober. Yes. Recovery, I'm just starting. There's a
Well,
difference.
explain the difference to me because I think that is something really powerful, Renee, that you just said. There's a difference between sober and recovery. Explain
Oh,
that.
okay. So when I was sober, I said, well, I can't snort cocaine and take Xanax. But I never had a problem with pot. I never in a million years had a problem with alcohol. Well, those are the only two. I don't, anything else I would never do. I said, I could drink. I don't have a problem. Never in
Mm,
my life did it lead me anywhere. So I decided to. And then one day I said, you faking, you fake B. You're a fake. You're a,
mm,
someone took a picture. I nearly snatched that. And then I said, you know what? I'm not being true. I'm sober from cocaine and Xanax, but am I in recovery?
mm,
Now, recovery, you every in the I know millions of people that are sober that don't practice.
mm,
So, in order to step into recovery, three, You have to surrender.
Mm.
I fight.
Mhm.
I can't give
How did
that.
you surrender then, Renee? How did you get to the
I
point?
still fight God.
Mm.
I give him like this much. And then I'm like, you're not doing it right. And then he goes, sit here, let me show you something. And God will do it. God will show me, and I'll be like, all right, I got to give you that much now.
Mm.
It's a battle. When it comes to perseverance, I persevere through anything because I come from trials on stands and tribulations. You know what I mean? I come from integrity. I have integrity. Might be different than the one they teach in recovery, but integrity is what we are. You
Mhm.
know, honesty. Oh God, please, I wish someone would please cover my mouth. Um, my tattoos, faith, hope, and freedom. If there's faith, they're backwards. I know that. If there's faith, there's hope, and there's freedom from what binds you.
Mhm. Do you feel like at this point, now that you've been in recovery for more than a year, I know we're not counting the days, but we know this has been a
No,
year. So
it's
I'm
not a
saying
year. It's not a
it's
year.
it's not a year. Okay.
We're close.
We're close. Okay. So you're close to a year.
I've
What do
tripped.
you
I've tripped.
okay. I
I'm
love
not.
your transparency because people need to hear that. That's part of the
Oh my God!
disease.
I'm gonna tell you. Oh, I have a year clean. No, I don't. I've tripped and fell on my face. When my whole world came crashing down, the only thing I knew how to do was go to bed. I don't get high. Understand that. I don't get high. I go to bed.
Mm.
So I suffer with insomnia. I go 3 and 4 days without sleeping. So my doctors are like, okay, you got to be hospitalized. Like this is a sickness. Your organs start to shut. And I'm like, well, frig it. People are going to call me a drug addict. They're like,
Mm.
I really don't care. I've woken up under general anesthesia. I've
Mhm.
woken up under propofol.
Mm.
Yeah, my something in me tells me I'm going to die. So I get up.
Wow.
Listen, I sit here with rosary beads. I just pray for 24 every day.
Mhm. So, are there any boundaries, Renee, that you've had to put in your life to protect your recovery? And if so, I want to hear about those boundaries.
It's called family. It's called the Grazianos. I had to walk away from a very substantial check. Huge,
Mm.
huge. Mob wives, mob wives loves a train wreck. I was their train wreck.
Mm.
Um, would I go back? They got 20 million. My
Mm.
life is real. My son's head got cracked open, 14 staples. My
Mm.
ex-husband came home almost 2 years. He's still threatening to murder me. Mine, SHIT, is real.
Mm.
Okay. So a lot of women, and I'm not knocking anybody in recovery because everybody has a battle. But if I might say this, Anthony Graziano's daughter wasn't going to get raped. Anthony
Mm.
Graziano's daughter wasn't going to get beaten. Anthony Graziano's daughter wasn't going to have her sacrum shattered,
Mm.
her ribs broke, her cheek broke,
Mm.
raped by a stranger, put in a straitjacket, shot up with so much Thorazine you would thought I was crazy.
Mm.
So if you really look at my story in detail, you're going to be like, and not you, the next person, I would take a pill for her.
Mm.
Because how do you survive? I don't know how I survived. My
Mm.
sister hung me when I was 6. Um,
Mm.
things have happened. My ex-husband got married, had a baby while married to me. Like there's things that happen to me. I sometimes stop and I sit on the floor. I go visit my dad at the cemetery, and I like, why me?
Mm.
Why? I'm the weak sister. You guys joke around and call me Fredo. They call me Fredo in my family.
Mm.
I'm like, for somebody who's so afraid of this, that, and the third, I would love for my sisters to walk in my shoes high for one day.
Mhm.
And
Well,
it's
you know what I think is really powerful about what you said too, Renee, is that you did start to look at the boundaries. You said, mob wise, maybe right now you started to own, take up for yourself and say, I'm not going to do that. I've got to put boundaries in place to protect myself. Were there other things that you've done? I heard you move from New York to Florida and things like that. Were there other things that you put in place just to protect that sobriety that you had achieved?
I got sober last year and I moved to Florida and I was like, this might be good for me. Mm-mm.
Mm-mm.
It's very lonely. It's very lonely. And when you're lonely, everybody knows what happens with loneliness.
Mm.
I have 4 grandchildren now. My son has a lot of resentment towards me. Um, let alone his father, who is a full-blown alcoholic and addict. Um, my son, I see my son has a lot of, he says things to me like, why couldn't you date that guy instead of that guy? Why? He's like, I don't mind you dating black men, but why do you got to pick them?
Mm.
Like, I'm like, oh, you mean the one with the red flag hanging out of his pocket? I thought it was a carnival.
Mm.
Listen, I'm not stupid. I'm
You
not,
know.
I was
Mhm.
bored, but that's what happens. You get sober, you get bored. Because if you're not practicing recovery, then you lose sight of what you're at, what
Mhm.
you're after. What I'm after is peace,
Mhm.
love, and family and
Mhm.
money, money, money. Yeah.
Mhm.
But that comes afterwards, you know? Like I
So
lost
how are
every,
you practicing recovery, Renee? You said if you're not practicing recovery, what does that mean to you when you say practicing recovery?
okay. So every day I do a gratitude list.
Mhm.
I donate to anyone who doesn't have anything. I I pray constantly. I have
Mhm.
a mentor. I call him for everything. I have a therapist. Meetings make me uncomfortable.
Mhm.
Although that sounds like a crack of shit. Meetings are really where it's at.
Mhm.
Meetings really, really tells. I listen to stories about women that sold themselves, and I'm like, I never paid for drugs. You know what I mean? Like I'm a doctor girl. So I never had, put it this way. I'm reaping all of those things that I said, those yets,
Mm.
they're here. They're
Mm.
here. Losing my family, them pushing me away. And they love me, don't get me wrong, but they couldn't deal with the up and down. And it's the Xanax, it's nothing else. The
Mhm.
Xanax makes you crazy. And I was given Xanax 8 milligrams a day. I was given 2 Roxys a day, 2 Oxys a day when my ex husband broke body parts. And
Mhm.
I was like, this feels pretty good.
Mhm.
I don't got to
Well,
think
you know
about
what
it.
you said too that is interesting to me, Renee, that these were all prescriptions most of the time. I know early on you said it was cocaine, but it transitioned to more prescription
Champagne. Okay.
medication.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. I grew up in the Goodfella days. Yes.
Right. But that's, I think a lot of people don't realize that how many people are just struggling with prescription painkillers or with prescription medications.
Let me tell you something. Xanax is an amazing drug if you have someone drop it off 1 pill a day. It is. I just happen to eat 3 and 4 and
Mm.
drive. Um, but Xanax, Prozac, excellent drug. Excellent. They give it now for menopause. Um, they had me misdiagnosed. They said I was MDD and I'm situational depression,
Mm.
meaning if I don't get my way, I'm situational depressed. I
Mm,
wear that all the time. I think that's boy rotten brat syndrome.
mm,
But when my father died, I lost everything,
mm.
all of this. And let me tell you something. When someone told me to pay my car note, I go, "Excuse me? My father pays my car notes. I'm 40. Excuse me."
Mhm.
I didn't know how to pay a bill.
So what does life look like for you today?
Oh, it's horrible. I pay bills. Um, and I
I
don't
think
mean
we can relate
but
to the bill paying.
I don't mean to sound like a bitch, and I don't mean to sound ignorant, but I am. My mother, when I moved back home after my divorce, my mom made my bed. My mom still makes my bed until I moved out. My parents, my parents didn't know how to parent. You know, my dad was shipped away when he was a little boy because a man suddenly died in an electrical fire that was abusing his sister sexually.
Mm,
So I don't think my father was right all of his life.
mm,
Not that he did anything, and he's dead anyway. Um, both of them are. His whole family passed.
mhm,
I have two aunts alive. That
mhm,
out of like 11 or 12 kids,
mhm.
all addiction, all mental health.
So like the family inside the family running everybody kind of struggling. Are you
Rooms.
one of the only ones who stepped up and said, I'm going to get help?
I'm the only one that did anything, and they all laughed at me because
Mm,
I fell so many times. Like I'll get 6 months, 7 months, 8 months, and then I'll be like, I got to take a break for 3 days. I haven't slept, and I know that's considered relapse. I understand that, but I'm really sorry. If I need to sleep, I don't sleep.
mhm,
And if I don't sleep after 3 days, we know that starts a lunacy pattern, a lunacy pattern.
mhm.
I'll
So then let me ask you this. I'm curious. So Renee, what inspires you to keep trying at the recovery? Is there a
I'm not
reason? Is there
quit.
inspiration?
I'm not a quitter. I'm my father's daughter. I will not quit. I will not quit at all. And I've had lots of ODs. Uh, yeah, a lot.
So when people look at your story, Renee, I mean, like you said, you're like what 85 women may have gone through their lives. You've gone through as one woman. You keep getting back up again. You're resilient. You still have a smile on your face.
I'm
You're
crying.
still I still see the smile there. So when people read, I know you're working on a memoir, and when people hear your story, if there were 3 lessons that you hope people take away from your story or from what you went through who may be struggling themselves, what do
Okay.
you hope they take away from your story?
No matter what anybody says about you, it's on them. That was really big for me. Um, no matter how tough it gets, tough people last, not tough times. And give yourself some grace.
Mm,
God's mercy is a beautiful thing. It's it's a very hard journey, and I have a whole family who doesn't believe anything I say because it's like prove, 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 and I want to tell them prove. I've bounced back from, do you know how many, like, I was dead a few times.
mm.
I don't have to prove to anybody but God and me.
And how are you giving yourself grace these days?
Um, how do give I get on my knees.
Mhm.
I
Have you
I
forgiven yourself?
No,
Mm,
no. There's a no. My son said something to me. he was commenting about parenting, and I said, I'm really sorry that I did that to you. I really, my intentions were, I took him to jail at a very young age, but that's all I know. And he goes, that's not what you do to your children. And I said, well, in my family, that's what you do to your children, because your children are destined for the same lifestyle.
Mm.
Said, well, that wasn't what a good mom would do. And I was like, so I texted him. I was like, I'm really, really sorry. I didn't mean not to be a good mom. And he said, it's okay, Mom. I know you tried your hardest.
Oh.
I know he still feels like shit, though. Oh, shoot, shoot. He feels like shit. Sorry, Joe. Um, um, at the end of the day, grace is something I find myself when I'm in church and I light a candle, or I'm at the beach and I let the water run over my feet. And I just have my conversations with God, and I just ask him to lift what I can't, because
Mm.
oh, he made me super. God has a purpose for you. Yeah, it's to stay alive so I could raise those four little maniacs. Uh,
Those grandbabies.
I got I got twin 6-month olds, a 3-year-old, and a 6-year-old. So I don't know what my purpose is, but I know my purpose is to save a life.
Mm. So is that one of the reasons why I know you're working on a memoir? Is that what you're hoping through this? And when can we expect that to come out? And will there be some things that we haven't heard about before in the book?
Well, I had to wait for my father to pass to write the book. That's for sure. I do not mention my ex-husband, his name, but what he did to me destroyed me. It I slept in bathtubs.
Mm.
Like, I endured a lot of physical pain. My son doesn't believe everything that he did to my dad. So to fight with my child and say, your father's a rat, your father's a rat, he don't want to hear it. And you know what? Shame on me. Because if someone was to talk about my father, I know I'm punching you in the face. Uh, Truth or no truth, it's still your parent. Um, the book is going to be interesting. And the last chapter, and Joe knows what just happened to me when I tried to date again.
Mm.
And let's just say this, not everyone is straight. So my book will be very, very interesting. There'll
Will
probably
you
be
talk a lot about your struggles with addiction in the book too?
oh, it's based on addiction. It's
Oh,
based.
okay.
My addiction started way before drugs. It started with power. It started with money, and it started with men. That is my addiction. Drugs is not my addiction. Drugs is the solution to the problem that I can't figure out. Or how do they say that? Drugs is the yeah, I think I said it right, right?
I
Yeah,
think
so
so.
it
Yeah.
it it's easier to I'm sorry. It's easier sometimes for me to pop a pill. My motto was pop a pill, solve a problem.
Mm.
And it worked for years until all those problems diluted.
Mm.
No more. So my pain is I'm numb. I'm
Mm.
numb to a lot of I'm numb to a lot of things
Mhm.
except for my grandchildren. So like when it comes to them, I dare the person. My son comes home and he goes, "Hey mom, they're giving morphine lollipops." I said, "Bring me up to school. Bring me up to school." So he
Mm.
goes, "Mom, what are you gonna do?" I said, "Bring me to school."
Mm.
And he's like, "I can't do that. I'm embarrassed." I said, "I'll show you what embarrassed is, and I want their mothers." And
Mm.
like, "Mom, you can't threaten people at school." I said, "You want to bet?
Mm.
Anyone who gets my child high, you want to bet?
Mm.
You're 15
'Cause you
years."
don't want them to go through.
Are you kidding? See,
What
I
you've
was
done for 'em.
on Dilaudid for over a year because I had plastic surgery gone terribly wrong. I had MRSA through my whole body. And they gave me 8 milligrams of Dilaudid at a pop.
Mm.
Okay, I had a hole the size of that to my spine. Did nothing to me. I stopped it, did nothing to me.
Mm.
When my ex-husband shattered my sacrum, I got hooked on oxy-80s.
Mm.
Hooked. Took me a year. I stopped in 2010, and Xanax and cocaine took my life over.
Mhm. But
More
look
Xanax.
at you today, the Renee. You know, I know it's been an uphill battle, but like you said, every 24 hours, you're making a decision for
Yep.
your recovery. You're sharing your story, which I
Yes.
know can't be easy. I mean, even though a lot of times doing reality TV and stuff, people get a glimpse, but to really be transparent and talk about it, I know can't be easy. So, first of all, I want to thank you
Thank
for
you.
being transparent and sharing your story with us. And if there are any final words that you'd want to say tonight, because, you know, when we started this show, Addiction Talk, because we know people are struggling. We know
Okay.
families are struggling. We
Yes.
know people are overdosing and dying at alarming rates.
I
And
know.
so we do this to share stories because something you might say, Renee, could change somebody's life. Not
Okay.
could, it will change
So
somebody's.
my thing is, no matter what, if by chance you make if by chance you use, get up the next day, get on your knees, ask for forgiveness, go to a meeting. Not everybody has smooth sailing. It's impossible, in my personal opinion. God bless the person that could sail smoothly. But in my opinion, if you screw up, don't give up. Giving up is for quitters. We are not quitters. We are the most resilient. And I know we're manipulative. So let me tell you something, manipulate that to your advantage and survive. Just
Survive.
don't live to live, live.
Mm. I love that. And will we see you? My final question, will we see you? I've heard you have some other TV stuff in the works. Are we going to see you back on TV soon? Doing great things. Tell me about that because I have to ask that before we leave.
So I'm meeting with my producers. It's called My Fairy Mob Mother. And it's using my gangster for good. I'm
Mm-hmm.
trying to help people who have been in recovery, who have trouble finding jobs, trouble getting into recovery, just the stigma that follows it. I know I have a lot of celebrity friends that look down on me. And I know who you all are, by the way. They stop inviting you to parties. They're worried about your behavior. I'm outrageous as it is, without any drugs or alcohol. I forget alcohol. I don't drink. So without anything, I'm outrageous. But I want people to know there is an alternative. And if
Mm.
you're having trouble, please reach out. My DM is, I read my DM all the time. I'm here to show people the better way.
Mm.
That's it.
And that's what we're going to see on this show. When can we expect the show to come out?
I'm meeting with them Friday to see the sizzle reel. So I will let you know. Joe will have
Okay.
hands. I I just want to save a life. That's it. That's it. If I save one, you save one. We just keep saving them. Because right now we need to save lives.
Well, somebody just said you're a survivor. Thank you for sharing your story. And I can't think of a better way to end this. So, Renee, first of all, I know we had trouble getting on, but you made it on and you shared some golden nuggets with us tonight. And I just want to say thank you again. And we wish you all the success. And as you
Thank
said, 24 hours at a time.
Yet sometimes it's 24 minutes, but it's still at a time.
Okay.
Thank
Have a
you.
good night.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Joy.
everyone, for joining us.
Bye-bye.